Stress comes from forgetting the temporary nature of life. This is one of the simplest truths, yet one of the most ignored truths of our existence. We don't become stressed because life is difficult. We become stressed because we forget that difficulty is a phase, not a destination. When a problem enters our life, we treat it like a permanent resident instead of a temporary guest. We give it a bedroom in our mind, unlimited access to our emotions, and complete control over our peace. Think about it honestly. When stress enters your life, what is the silent assumption behind it? The assumption is, this will never change. This problem will always stay. I will always feel like this. But if we look at our own life with sincerity, we will realize something shocking. Nothing has ever stayed the same. Not our childhood, not our friendships, not our struggles, not even our fears. Everything that once felt permanent eventually moved on. Stress is not created by reality. Stress is created by our perception of reality. Reality says, this is happening now. The mind says, this will keep happening forever. That small exaggeration is enough to disturb our sleep, drain our energy, and steal our joy. We stretch today's pain into tomorrow, next year, and sometimes an entire lifetime, without any evidence. Life works in seasons, just like nature. No one complains that winter is cold forever, because we know spring will arrive. But when emotional winters come into our lives, we forget this wisdom. We start believing that this sadness, this confusion, this uncertainty is permanent. And the moment we believe that, stress is born. Most of our stress is not about what is happening, but about what might happen. We suffer in advance. We rehearse pain. We imagine worst-case scenarios, and then emotionally live through them again and again. And what is interesting is that most of the things we stress about never happen. Yet the stress was real. The damage was real. The sleepless nights were real. When we forget that life is temporary, we start demanding guarantees. We want guarantees of success, guarantees of relationships, guarantees of happiness. But life has never promised certainty, it has only promised change. The moment we accept this, stress loses half its strength. Because how can something temporary threaten us forever? Look at the biggest stress you had 5 years ago. At that time, it felt unbearable. It felt like the end of the world. And today, either it resolved, or you adapted, or life took you in a different direction. You survived not because the problem disappeared immediately, but because time did its job. Time softened the pain. Time changed the situation. Time changed you. Stress also comes when we try to control things that were never in our control. We try to control people, outcomes, timing, and circumstances. And when life refuses to cooperate, we feel helpless. But the truth is, control was always an illusion. The only real control we have is over our response. When we remember that this phase is temporary, our response becomes calmer, wiser, and more balanced. Temporary does not mean insignificant. Pain is real, struggles are real, but they are not permanent. A wave may hit hard, but it does not stay. It rises, it crashes, and it retreats. Life's challenges work the same way. They come to test us, teach us, and transform us, not to trap us forever. When we forget impermanence, we take life too personally. A failure becomes an identity. A setback becomes a life sentence. A bad day becomes a bad life. But when we remember that everything is passing, we gain perspective. We stop asking, Why is this happening to me forever? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me right now? Stress shrinks when perspective expands. When you zoom out, today's problem becomes one small chapter in a much larger story. And stories need conflict. Without challenges, there is no growth, no depth, no wisdom. The moment you truly understand that this moment will pass, whether it is joy or pain, you stop clinging and you stop resisting. You enjoy happiness without fear and you endure pain without panic. This balance is peace. So whenever stress visits you, gently remind yourself, this too shall pass. Not as a quote, not as motivation, but as a lived truth. Because when you remember that everything is temporary, stress realizes it has overstayed its welcome, and slowly it leaves. Nothing in life has stayed the same forever. This is not philosophy, this is experience. If we are honest with ourselves, our entire life is proof of this truth. Every phase we once thought would last forever eventually changed. Every situation that felt permanent slowly dissolved into memory. Yet when a new challenge arrives, we behave as if this time is different, as if this problem has signed a lifetime contract with us. Think about your own journey. The things that once mattered deeply to you, some dreams, some fears, some relationships. Where are they now? They either evolved, transformed, or faded away, not because you planned it, but because life naturally moves forward. Change is not an exception, it is the rule. Stability is the illusion. When we are in the middle of pain, our vision becomes narrow. We can only see the present moment, and the present moment feels endless. But the truth is, the present moment has never stayed. It never will. Time keeps moving, whether we cooperate or resist. And in that movement, situations change, people change, emotions change, and we change. There was a time when you were afraid of things that no longer scare you. There was a time when you cried over losses that no longer hurt the same way. There was a time when you doubted yourself in ways you no longer do. What healed you was not force, not answers, not certainty, it was time. Time quietly did what nothing else could. Life does not ask for our permission before changing. It doesn't wait for us to feel ready. Seasons shift, circumstances evolve, doors close, and new ones open, often without explanation. We call this uncertainty. But uncertainty is simply life refusing to stay still. One of the biggest reasons we suffer is because we resist change. We want things to remain the way they were when we were comfortable. We want happiness to pause, success to freeze, relationships to remain untouched. But the same law that takes away joy also takes away pain. If nothing changed, healing would be impossible. Imagine if your worst day never ended. Imagine if your biggest failure stayed forever. Growth would be impossible. Maturity would never happen. Wisdom would never be born. The very fact that life changes is what allows us to survive. Even emotions are temporary. Anger rises, peaks, and falls. Sadness comes, stays, and then slowly loosens its grip. Joy appears, shines brightly, and then makes space for something else. No emotion has ever stayed permanently unless we held on to it. And even then, it changed its shape over time. We often say, I'll never get over this, but life gently proves us wrong, not by erasing the memory, but by changing how it lives inside us. What once broke us later becomes something we talk about with calmness, sometimes even gratitude. That transformation is not magic, it is the power of impermanence. Relationships also teach us this lesson. Some people walk with us for a short distance, some for years, some for a lifetime. Not everyone is meant to stay, and that doesn't mean they were meaningless. Their role was temporary, but their impact was real. When we understand this, we stop forcing permanence where life intended movement. Even our identity is not fixed. Who you are today is not who you were 10 years ago. Your beliefs, priorities, and perspectives have evolved. You didn't lose yourself, you grew, and you will grow again. Holding on to an old version of yourself only creates conflict with the present. The mistake we make is assuming that change always means loss. Sometimes change means relief. Sometimes it means freedom. Sometimes it means becoming stronger than we ever imagined. But we can only see this in hindsight. In the moment, change feels uncomfortable because it takes away familiarity. Life is constantly teaching us one quiet lesson. Don't get too attached to the moment, good or bad. Attachment to happiness creates fear of loss. Attachment to pain creates despair. Understanding impermanence creates balance. When you remember that nothing stays the same forever, patience becomes easier. You stop rushing healing. You stop demanding instant clarity. You allow life to unfold. You trust that just as things once changed for the worse, they can change for the better too. This understanding doesn't make you passive, it makes you peaceful. You still act, you still try, you still work, but without panic. You stop asking life to freeze and start learning how to flow. So, when you feel stuck, remind yourself no phase has ever lasted forever, and this one won't either. Life has moved you forward before, quietly, gently, and surely. It will do it again. Good times are lessons, bad times are teachers. Most of us believe the opposite. We think good times are rewards and bad times are punishments. We celebrate happiness and resist pain, assuming that one is meaningful and the other is useless. But life does not work in such simple categories. Every phase carries wisdom, and every experience, pleasant or painful, has something to teach us if we are willing to listen. During good times, life teaches us gratitude, presence, and humility. When things are going well, we learn what alignment feels like. We discover our strengths, our passions, and our capacity to create joy. Success shows us what is possible. Love teaches us how deeply we can connect. Peace teaches us how light life can feel. These moments are lessons because they reveal our potential. They show us what kind of life we are capable of building. But good times are subtle teachers. Their lessons are gentle. They whisper instead of shout. And that is why we often miss them. When we are happy, we rarely reflect. We enjoy the moment but forget to study it. We forget to ask, what am I doing right? Or, what values are supporting this phase? If we were more attentive, good times would teach us how to recreate balance, even when circumstances change. Bad times, however, do not whisper. They speak loudly. Sometimes they scream. Pain demands attention. It slows us down, forces us to look inward, and compels us to question our assumptions. Bad times are teachers not because they are cruel, but because they are honest. They expose what we avoided during comfort. They reveal our attachments, fears, insecurities, and limitations. When life hurts, it strips away illusions. It shows us what truly matters and what does not. In moments of loss, we understand the value of presence. In moments of failure, we understand the importance of resilience. In moments of loneliness, we understand the need for inner strength. Pain has a way of clarifying priorities in a way comfort never can. Bad times also teach us patience. When everything is going well, patience is easy because results come quickly. But when progress is slow and answers are unclear, patience becomes a practice. We learn to sit with uncertainty. We learn to trust without proof. This kind of patience cannot be learned in moments of ease. Struggle teaches empathy. When we suffer, we become softer toward others. We stop judging so quickly. We understand that everyone is fighting a battle we cannot see. This depth of compassion rarely comes from success alone. It is born from knowing what it feels like to be broken and still stand up again. Bad times also teach us self-reliance. When external support fails or when plans collapse, we discover inner resources we didn't know we had. We realize that we are stronger than we believed. This confidence is not loud, but it is unshakable. It comes from experience, not motivation. Many of the qualities we admire most, wisdom, calmness, emotional maturity, are not developed in comfort. They are refined in difficulty. Just like gold is purified in fire, character is shaped in challenge. Without pressure, there is no transformation. At the same time, good times teach us responsibility. They remind us not to take life for granted. Happiness becomes meaningful when we understand how easily it can change. When we have clarity, we learn to protect it. When we have peace, we learn to respect it. When we experience love, we learn how fragile and precious it is. The mistake we often make is trying to escape bad times as quickly as possible without learning from them. We ask, "How do I get out of this?" instead of asking, "What is this teaching me?" When we skip the lesson, life often repeats the class, not to punish us, but to ensure we learn what we missed. Good times and bad times are not enemies. They are partners in growth. One shows us light, the other shows us depth. One expands us outward, the other strengthens us inward. Together, they shape a balanced human being. When we stop labeling experiences as good or bad and start seeing them as useful, life becomes less frightening. We stop resisting pain and stop clinging to pleasure. We begin to flow with life rather than fight it. One day, you will look back at your hardest phase and realize it gave you something your happiest phase never could. Strength, clarity, or wisdom. And you will look back at your happiest phase and realize it gave you something your hardest phase never could. Hope, joy, or inspiration. Life is not trying to make us comfortable all the time. It is trying to make us conscious. And for that, it uses both sunshine and storms. Overthinking is the misuse of imagination. Imagination is a powerful gift. It allows us to dream, to create, to plan, and to visualize a better future. It is the reason progress exists at all. But when imagination is used without awareness, it turns against us. Instead of building possibilities, it starts building fears. Instead of creating hope, it creates scenarios of pain that have not happened and may never happen. That is when imagination becomes overthinking. Overthinking begins when the mind refuses to stay in the present. The body is here, but the mind is either replaying the past or worrying about the future. We relive old conversations, rewrite old endings, and punish ourselves for things we cannot change. Or we jump ahead in time, imagining failures, rejection, loss, and disappointment before they even occur. In both cases, the present moment is ignored and peace is sacrificed. What makes overthinking so exhausting is that it feels productive. We believe that by thinking more, we are preparing ourselves. But preparation requires clarity. Overthinking creates confusion. It doesn't lead to solutions, it leads to loops. The mind keeps asking the same questions without finding answers. And every unanswered question increases anxiety. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to control uncertainty. Life does not provide guarantees, and the mind dislikes that. So it starts imagining every possible outcome, hoping that if it thinks enough, it can avoid pain. But the irony is this: overthinking creates the very pain it is trying to prevent. We end up suffering twice, once in our imagination and once in reality, if it ever happens. Most of the thoughts we overthink are not facts, they are assumptions. We assume what others are thinking about us. We assume how situations will end. We assume that one mistake defines our entire future. These assumptions feel real because emotions are involved, but emotions are not evidence. The mind confuses possibility with certainty, and fear fills the gap. Overthinking also steals our energy. Mental energy is limited, yet we spend it on scenarios that do not exist. By the time real challenges arrive, we are already exhausted. We are tired not because life is hard, but because our mind never rests. The tragedy of overthinking is that it disconnects us from reality. While we are busy imagining worst case scenarios, life is happening quietly in front of us. Moments pass without being lived. Conversations happen without being felt. Opportunities appear but go unnoticed because the mind is elsewhere. Overthinking often comes from a fear of making mistakes. We want the perfect decision, the perfect timing, the perfect outcome. But perfection is an illusion. Life rewards action, not endless analysis. Many mistakes can be corrected, missed chances often cannot. When we overthink, we delay action, and delay creates regret. Another reason overthinking grows is because we confuse thinking with intelligence. But wisdom is not about thinking more, it is about thinking clearly. A calm mind sees solutions that an anxious mind cannot. Silence often provides more answers than noise. Imagination, when used correctly, inspires courage. When misused, it feeds fear. The same mind that can visualize success can also visualize failure. The difference is direction. Without awareness, the mind defaults to negativity because it is wired for survival, not happiness. The way out of overthinking is not to stop thinking, but to guide it. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this something I can act on right now? If the answer is no, the thought does not deserve your attention. Attention is energy. Where you place it matters. When you return to the present moment, overthinking loses its grip. The present does not contain imagined disasters. It contains what is actually happening, and what is actually happening is usually manageable. Overthinking convinces us that peace will come after we solve everything, but peace comes first, clarity follows. A peaceful mind handles uncertainty better than an anxious one ever can. Imagination was meant to expand life, not imprison it. When we learn to use it wisely, the mind becomes a tool, not a trap. Today's pain will become tomorrow's story. When we are in the middle of pain, this idea feels impossible to believe. Pain feels raw, personal, and endless. It consumes our thoughts, colors our emotions, and narrows our vision. In those moments, we are not thinking about the future, We are simply trying to survive the present. And that is okay. Pain does not ask us to be wise immediately. It asks us to be honest. But time has a quiet way of transforming pain. What hurts today will not always hurt in the same way. It may leave a scar, but scars tell stories of healing, not defeat. They prove that something once wounded us and that we lived through it. Every meaningful story you have ever heard was born from struggle. Nobody tells stories about easy days that changed nothing. Stories come from moments of loss, failure, heartbreak, confusion, and courage. The chapters that once broke us are often the chapters that later define us. When you are in pain, life feels very small. The mind keeps asking, why me? Or why now? But one day, the same experience will make sense. Not because it was fair, but because it shaped you. You will see how it taught you resilience, boundaries, strength, or compassion. Meaning is not found during pain, it is discovered after it. Pain changes its role over time. In the beginning, it feels like an enemy. Later, it becomes a reminder. Eventually, it becomes a lesson. And one day, it becomes a story you tell, not with bitterness, but with clarity. The story may not be dramatic. It may not be shared on a stage, but it will live inside you as wisdom. It will influence how you love, how you forgive, how you stand up for yourself, and how you treat others. Some pain teaches us what we deserve. Some pain teaches us what we must let go of. Some pain teaches us how strong we are when we have no choice but to be strong. All pain teaches us something if we allow it to move instead of trapping it inside us. What we resist tends to stay. When we fight pain, judge it, or rush it, it often deepens. But when we allow ourselves to feel it without drowning in it, pain slowly loosens its grip. Feeling is not weakness, it is part of healing. There will come a time when someone else is standing where you once stood, confused, broken, or afraid. And without even realizing it, you will know what to say. Not because you read it somewhere, but because you lived it. Your pain will become your credibility. Your experience will become someone else's comfort. This is how pain transforms into purpose. Not by force, but by honesty. Not by denial, but by acceptance. The danger is not pain itself. The danger is believing that pain defines you forever. Pain is something you experience, not who you are. When we confuse the two, suffering becomes permanent. Time does not erase pain, but it reframes it. The sharp edges soften. The intensity reduces. Perspective grows. One day, you will talk about something that once made you cry, and you will be surprised by your own calmness. Even the pain that never fully leaves still changes shape. It stops controlling your decisions. It stops hijacking your emotions. It becomes part of your story, not the center of your identity. Stories have power. They connect people. They heal. They inspire. And the stories that heal the most are the ones born from real struggle, not perfection. So if you are hurting today, remember this: you are not stuck. You are in the middle of a story still being written. This chapter may be heavy, but it is not the ending. And one day, you will look back and realize that what once felt like the end was actually the beginning of becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded. Pain does not get the final word. Growth does. Peace doesn't come from controlling life, but understanding it. Most of us spend our lives trying to control outcomes, people, situations, and even time itself. We believe that if everything goes according to our plan, we will finally feel peaceful. But life rarely follows our plans. It moves in its own rhythm, with its own logic. And when we try to force control over what was never meant to be controlled, stress becomes our constant companion. The need for control comes from fear, fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, fear of being hurt. The mind thinks that control equals safety, but control is fragile. The moment something unexpected happens, and it always does, our sense of safety collapses. Peace that depends on control is temporary and unstable. Understanding life, on the other hand, creates a deeper, more lasting peace. Understanding that change is natural. Understanding that people act from their own conditioning. Understanding that delays, detours, and disappointments are part of the journey. When we understand this, we stop fighting reality. Life is not a machine that responds to commands. It is a flow. When we resist the flow, we exhaust ourselves. When we move with it, even challenges feel lighter. Understanding does not mean approval. It means acceptance. Acceptance of what is not what we wish it to be. One of the biggest sources of inner conflict is our attachment to how things should be. We carry rigid expectations about success, relationships, timelines, and recognition. When reality does not match these expectations, we feel frustrated. But reality is not wrong. Our expectations are often unrealistic. Understanding life means understanding impermanence. Everything changes, moods, circumstances, opportunities. When we stop demanding permanence from temporary things, peace naturally arises. We stop clinging when things are good and stop panicking when things are hard. Control focuses on outcomes. Understanding focuses on processes. When we understand the process, we become patient. We stop rushing results. We trust timing. We allow growth to happen naturally. People also cause us stress because we try to control their behavior, opinions, and reactions. But everyone sees the world through their own experiences and wounds. When we understand this, we stop taking things personally. Their actions say more about their inner world than our worth. Understanding does not make us passive. It makes us wise. We still act, we still plan, we still work. But without anxiety, we do what is in our control and release what is not. This balance is the foundation of peace. Life often teaches us through discomfort. When something breaks, ends, or disappoints us, it is usually redirecting us. Understanding this helps us trust even the difficult moments. Not because they are easy, but because they are meaningful. The mind seeks control, the heart seeks understanding. When we live only from the mind, life feels like a battle. When we include understanding, life becomes a dialogue. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the absence of resistance. When we stop arguing with reality, our energy returns. We conserve strength for what truly matters. Understanding life also means understanding ourselves, our triggers, our patterns, our fears. When we observe instead of judge, we grow. Self-understanding reduces inner conflict more than self-control ever could. When you understand life, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this showing me?" This shift changes everything. Curiosity replaces fear. Learning replaces frustration. Control tries to eliminate uncertainty. Understanding learns to live with it. And because uncertainty is unavoidable, understanding always wins. Peace is not found in perfect circumstances. It is found in clear perception. The more clearly you see life, the less it shakes you. When you stop trying to control the river and learn how to swim, life no longer feels like it is drowning you. People's opinions change faster than the weather. One day you are admired, the next day you are questioned. One moment you are praised, the next moment you are judged. And often nothing about you has actually changed. What changed was the mood, the expectation, or the convenience of the observer. Yet we allow these shifting opinions to deeply affect our self-worth, our confidence, and our peace. Human opinions are unstable because they are shaped by emotions, personal experiences, insecurities, and circumstances. People don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. Their opinions are filtered through their own beliefs, fears, and desires. What they praise in you today may threaten them tomorrow. What they criticize today may be admired later. This inconsistency is not a reflection of your value, but of human nature. If you build your self-worth on people's opinions, you place your peace in the hands of something unreliable. It is like building a house on moving sand. Compliments feel good, but they create dependency. Criticism hurts deeply because it shakes the foundation of who you think you are. Both reactions come from the same place, external validation. The problem is not that people have opinions. The problem is that we give those opinions authority over our identity. We allow words spoken casually to define us permanently. We forget that opinions are temporary reactions, not permanent truths. Think about how many times you have changed your own opinion about someone. Someone you once disliked, you later understood. Someone you admired, you later questioned. Your perspective evolved as you gain more information or maturity. If your own opinions can change, why expect others' opinions to be fixed? People's opinions are also influenced by comparison. When you succeed, some will be inspired, others will feel insecure. When you fail, some will empathize, others will feel validated. These reactions have little to do with you and a lot to do with where they are in their own journey. Social approval is a moving target. You can adjust yourself endlessly and still fall short. If you speak, someone will criticize. If you stay silent, someone will judge. If you follow tradition, someone will call you outdated. If you break it, someone will call you reckless. There is no version of you that satisfies everyone. The moment you realize this, a deep freedom appears. You stop performing for approval and start living with intention. You choose values over validation. You become less reactive and more grounded. This does not mean becoming insensitive or arrogant. Feedback can be valuable. Constructive criticism can help us grow. But there is a difference between listening and surrendering. Listening involves discernment. Surrendering means losing yourself. When we understand how quickly opinions change, we stop chasing them. We stop letting praise inflate us and criticism destroy us. We learn to stand steady in both. The most peaceful people are not those who are universally liked, but those who are deeply aligned with themselves. They know who they are, so outside noise does not shake them easily. They don't need everyone's approval because they are not trying to prove their worth. People's opinions also reflect moments, not journeys. Someone may judge you based on a single action, ignoring years of effort. Another may praise you for a result, ignoring the struggle behind it. Neither perspective captures the whole truth. When you allow opinions to control you, you live in constant self-monitoring. You overthink your words, your actions, your choices. Life becomes a performance, not an experience. This creates anxiety and exhaustion. Understanding the temporary nature of opinions allows you to breathe. You act from authenticity, not fear. You accept that misunderstanding is part of being human. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. At the end of the day, people will remember how they felt around you, not how perfectly you met their expectations. And even that memory will fade. What remains is who you were when no one was watching. Your integrity, your growth, your inner peace. When you stop letting people's opinions define you, you take your power back. You stop living at the mercy of changing weather and start becoming your own climate. Every delay is not denial. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, especially in a world that celebrates speed, instant results, and overnight success. When things don't happen according to our timeline, we quickly assume that something is wrong with life, with circumstances, or with ourselves. We interpret waiting as failure and delay as rejection. But life does not operate on our urgency, it operates on readiness. A delay often means preparation. It means something is still forming within you or around you. We rarely see this from the outside. All we feel is the discomfort of waiting. Waiting tests patience more than hardship ever does. It leaves us in uncertainty, where answers are unclear and progress feels invisible. When we don't get what we want immediately, doubt enters. We start questioning our abilities, our choices, and our worth. We compare our timeline with others and feel left behind. But comparison ignores context. Everyone's journey has different lessons, different starting points, and different pacing. Some things require time to mature. Just as fruit picked too early lacks sweetness, success reached too quickly often lacks stability. What comes fast can leave just as fast. What takes time usually stays longer. Delays also protect us. Many times, what we wanted at one stage of life would have harmed us if we had received it then. We didn't have the emotional maturity, the clarity, or the strength to handle it. Life delays not to punish us, but to prepare us. When something is delayed, it often means that more learning is required. Skills need refining. Perspective needs widening. Character needs strengthening. These inner changes are invisible but essential. Delays also teach trust. Trust in timing, trust in effort, trust in life's intelligence. Without trust, waiting becomes unbearable. With trust, waiting becomes purposeful. One of the reasons delay hurts is because we attach our identity to outcomes. We believe that if something hasn't happened yet, we are behind, inadequate, or failing. But your worth is not measured by how quickly things arrive. Life is not a race. There is no universal schedule. Some people bloom early, some later. Late bloomers often have deeper roots. A delay also forces reflection. It gives us time to reassess what we want and why we want it. Sometimes what we think we desire changes during the wait. And that change saves us from chasing the wrong dream. Not everything that is delayed is meant to be permanent. Many things arrive later than expected, but exactly when needed. When they do, we often realize why it couldn't have happened sooner. Impatience creates pressure. Pressure clouds judgment. We rush decisions just to escape waiting, and that often creates regret. Delay, though uncomfortable, reduces the chances of regret. Life's delays teach humility. They remind us that we are part of something larger than our plans. They teach surrender, not giving up, but letting go of control. When you are in a season of delay, it does not mean nothing is happening. It means things are happening beneath the surface. Growth is taking place where you cannot see it yet. Delays build resilience. They test commitment. They separate casual desires from true callings. Many people quit during delay. Those who persist grow stronger. If you look back, you may realize that some of the best things in your life arrived after long waits. And when they did, you were grateful they came at that moment, not earlier. So when life says wait, don't assume it means no. Sometimes it simply means not yet.